Have you ever seen micro interactions like this on websites and were like, how the hell are these created? Well, if yes, you're in the right place. In this short tutorial, that's exactly what I'm teaching you. We're going to learn how to create this key micro interaction with the help of Framer without writing a single line of code. My name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. So a while ago, I came across James' micro interaction on Twitter, which looked really nice, and I kind of wanted to recreate it in Framer. And when Framer released the new vector tools, I was like, okay, this is the right moment to do this, because now I don't have to go back to Figma to draw these illustrations. I can just do it right inside of Framer, and I can animate it really easily. So I actually recreated it, so you can see it right here. This is the Framer version. You can see that the key also has a Framer logo. And yeah, in this short tutorial, I just want to show you how it's done, so you can also do something like this for your websites. Now, the first thing that we have to notice when we look at this little interaction or micro interaction is that it has a really smart layering, because the ring is also below and also above some elements. So to achieve this, we're going to have to do two ring sections. One will be having a z-index larger than the key here, and then this section here that goes inside of the hole and then below the key, now that section will have a smaller z-index. Basically, that's the only, like, I don't know, tricky part in this whole setup. Now, the vectors or the illustrations are pretty simple. I'm not actually gonna draw them here in this tutorial, because I think you should be able to do that if you kind of know how to like draw with the pen tool. You just press B and you draw like illustrations. There are a few things I want to still show you. For example, if you don't know how to create these rings, or first of all hole in this key, I can show that to you. So if you press on your keyboard, draw a shape like this, and then you duplicate it with Command and D, and then make it smaller, then select both. Then on the top right, you have these. And if you click the second one, which is subtract, now you're going to have this. So basically that's it. That's how you do a ring, and that's how you do the key as well. And I think that's it. The rest is just, adding linear gradients. So you can see it has a linear gradient here. So it appears as it is a little bit like lighter here, or like a light is shining on this little ring. It also has drop shadow and inner shadow, which is not that visible. We can see it now. Maybe I'm just screenshotting it and zooming in that way, because in Framer, if you zoom in too much, those shadows will disappear. But yeah, on this screenshot, you can see that there's a little shadow here. There's a little highlight there. It just helps creating a more realistic illustration. And those are added on these SVGs. So you can see shadow, inside, color. So yeah, it shouldn't be anything complicated, to be honest, but you're gonna find a remix link for this project, and you're gonna have all of these illustrations that I drew in Framer, and you can see how they are structured, how they are created, and maybe you can try recreating them or redrawing them yourself for practice. But if you remix the project, you're gonna find on the pages panel on the left a little starter page where you have all the necessary elements for this micro interaction. So you can just get this and start building with me. So I'm going to go to the tutorial page, and the first thing that we have to do is to kind of put all of this together so it looks something like this. So I'm just going to select all of these and drag and drop them onto my desktop breakpoint. Then I'll wrap them in a common stack, so we kind of group them together. So I'm going to select all of them here on the left layers panel, and then I'll right click and add the stack. But please do remember this shortcut, because I'm going to use it a few times in this video. It's Option, Command and Enter. So now we have this. We can set this to a fixed width value, maybe 300 pixels. Probably it's going to be a little bit smaller, like something like this, 200. And then we also set a fixed height value, which is going to be something like this. Maybe that's also 200. Then to make sure that we also see overflowing parts, we set overflow on this frame to visible. And then I'm going to rename this to illustration. Now I can grab all of these little frames within and set them to absolute. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to be able to move them individually to different positions. So I'll have to move the ring, these two rings, in a way that they are like forming an actual ring, something like that. And then I'm going to move the tag a little bit more down here, the key here, select both of these ring parts, move it up there. Okay, so I'll select the ring, I'll move it up here, and you know, I kind of have to start rotating it to get this form. But if I rotate it, you're going to see that it's not really rotating from this point here, from the top. It's rotating from the center, and this is not really what we need, because on the hover state, you can also see that around this area, it's kind of fixed. Mostly this part is moving up and down. And in order to create this, we have to change the origin point of this element. So we're going to go to the right panel, transform, and we're going to add an origin, and we're going to set this Y value to 0%. So 50-50 basically means that we go 50% on the X-axis, and then 50% on the Y-axis as well. And this is how we end up on the center of this object. So if we set the Y value to 0%, then we jump back here, and this is exactly where we want to be. So Y will be 0%. Now if I start rotating this, it looks something like this. Maybe I want to slightly increase this Y value, so we are getting a little bit closer to the actual like hole in the key. So I'll just try fine-tuning this so that we get the least amount of movement on the hole as we are rotating this. So what we essentially want to achieve is that this key is rotating around its hole, and the hole is not actually moving when it's rotating. So yeah, something like this. This looks pretty cool. As I'm like rotating this around, the hole isn't moving too much. So that's pretty good. I'm going to rotate it like this. This is going to be the starting position, and I'm going to move it here. And you can see that since we have two sections for this ring, if I move it to the correct position, it's going to look like that this ring is like actually going inside of this key. Again, the key here is to make sure that the ring part that is the ring up is having a larger z-index. So if you select any element in Framer and go to the styles on the right, you can add the z-index property. This basically defines the layering of these layers. So if an element has a larger z-index, it's going to appear over elements that have lower z-index. So this has z-index 8. The other ring, the ring down, has z-index 1. And the key has z-index 7. So this is how this is built up. So I'm gonna fine-tune the position of this key here. I'll also double check to see, okay, I'll be able to move this pretty easily, and yeah, basically that's it. I think it looks good. And then I'll move this tag as well with my arrow keys. It's going to be somewhere around here. I have to be careful because, you know, my ring has two sections. So I have to move it in a way that it's not appearing over that or below the ring. It has to be over the ring. So something like this, or actually as far as I can tell, it's something like this on the original. Yeah. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, since I have everything set up, the whole composition is great. All I have to do now is just center this whole thing within this illustration frame that I created. So I select all of these, and I'm going to try centering them, which is not going to be easy, but I'll try. So it can move a little bit more to the right. It's a little bit hard because I cannot see the illustration frame while I'm moving it, but now it's kind of centered. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a component out of this to create this little movement when we hover over. So I'm going to right click, create component, and then we are here on the component canvas. Here we can name the first variant default, and then we can add additional variants to create movements. So we have this default variant, we click here, new variant, it's going to be called out. because this variant will define the way this component looks when we hover over. And as you can see, it moves up a little bit, and then these elements rotate outwards a little bit. But we will not do the movement back just yet. We just move it up. That's the first step of the animation, and then we move it back down. But so what I have to do here on the out is I have to first of all move everything up. So boom, 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 boom. There you go. And then the ring, or actually the ring isn't really rotating at all. The only thing that is rotating is the tag and the key. So the tag is rotating like this. And actually, I forgot one thing. The tag also has to have an origin override. So it also shouldn't rotate from the center. So on the primary, we have to override that or change the origin. Really important to do it on the primary. So if you remember something, oh, I should have done that, do not do it on the variant that you're currently on, because then it's only going to be applied there. If you apply it on the primary, then it's going to be on all variants, and this is what we need in this case. So tag on the right, transform origin, and I'm going to set the Y to 0 in this case. And then I'll, have to reposition it slightly to make sure that it looks good with this new origin setting. I think this should be okay. And now here I can rotate it slightly like this to the left. Perfect. And then this key to the right. So yeah, we have the out version. Now we need the back version. So you can see that this is a little bit of an interesting hover effect, because we don't simply go to a specific version of the object or the illustration when we hover over, but we immediately come back from that state without hovering off of the element. So we hover over and it just moves out, and then it just jumps back. The way we can create this is by utilizing the rollover technique. So what we're gonna do is when we hover over, we go to out, and then automatically we're gonna go back to the default. But the way we're gonna do that is we duplicate the default, so we click it, and then on the right we create a variant based on that. You can see that this is not the same as the out, so it's actually the default, but this is a different variant. We're gonna call it back, and we're gonna go to the back when the out appears on the screen, so we can already connect them with interactions. So I'm just gonna select the out, click this little connector, connect it to the back, and this will happen on appear. Now it has to have a little delay, so I'm gonna set it for 0.1 for now, but we might tweak this a little bit later. So that's what I'm gonna do on this component level. I'm not gonna add the mouse enter effect here, because I'm gonna add it on the main, like in the card component. So let's just wrap this in another stack. So option component enter, you already know this. And I'm gonna set this width to 240 pixels or something like that, 260 maybe. And then the height will be also a little bit larger. And then to make sure that this little key is on the bottom, we can set the distribute to end within this stack, and also the direction to vertical. So now it's right here, it's perfect. And now I can just add some text. So complete session management. I'm gonna paste it into Framer after pressing T on my keyboard and clicking on the canvas to add a text layer. This is probably gonna be something like 14 pixels. And then I'm gonna set the font to Inter. I'm not gonna tweak it too much. I'm gonna just set it to white, and that's it. Then I'm going to set it to fill. Fills up the available space. I'm going to add some padding within this card. Maybe a fill color so we can see where this card starts and ends. And then I'm going to duplicate this text with Command D, and then just paste in this other text here. Looks pretty good. Now there is a little change here. Most of this text is a little bit darker gray, so I'm going to set that as a default color. And then certain text are highlighted, so session and that other thing at the end. So let's just select those parts and just set them to white color. Now I think we have to make this a little bit larger, like this and this. Maybe even now that we have the final text, we can set the height to fit content. Yeah, That makes sense. And then I'm going to set the padding to 24. I think that's good. Maybe just a little bit wider. Okay, so this looks great, but there is one thing I don't like, which is the fact that on the bottom we don't need this extra space because the illustration already has some padding around. So I'm going to remove the bottom padding. And yeah, basically that's it. Now we have this card. We can turn it into a component, but before that, let's just make this little like gradient background on this card because that looks really cool. So instead of the fill color, we're going to add a frame within. So I'm going to just draw a frame here, press Command and X, and then paste it within this card that we created. Set this to absolute position so we can pin it to all sides with 0 pins so it fills up the available space here. Then it's really important to make sure that it's behind all of these content. The other content basically within the card should have a larger Z index. Not user select, but Z index set to a larger value. So now if I set this frame, let's just call it BG, to a little bit of a lower opacity, you can see that it's indeed in the background. As you can see, we kind of want to do sort of like a gradient. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click fill color and then a linear gradient. It's going to be a little bit rotated. It's going to be essentially dark on both points. Then I'm going to add the point in the center. I'm going to move it here, and it's going to be a little bit brighter, but not too bright. And then I'm going to draw another frame, press Command and X again, paste it within the BG, and then center it with Option H and V, because sometimes Framer puts it like way off the screen. And then I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Then I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to position it somewhere around this area to make sure that while you're moving it outside, seemingly outside of this BG frame, but still want to keep it within the BG, make sure that you're pressing down space. If you're not doing this, you're going to just move it out like this, and that's not great. So we just want to move it here, as you can see on the original, and maybe a little bit more towards the bottom. Maybe a little bit different rotation. And then on this, what we're going to have is another linear fill. So linear on this end, it's going to be white, but it's not going to be that white. So it's going to be a little bit brighter. On the other end, it's going to be black, that's for sure. But here, it might not be as bright. Maybe something like this. Yeah, this looks great. Maybe we make this a little bit smaller. Yeah, this looks cool. Okay, so now we have this card and we can turn it into a component. So Command, Option and K on my keyboard. It's now a component, and we can do a hover state here within this component. So I'm going to call this primary variant default, and on the hover, we're just going to override the illustration component that we created to the out variant. So as you remember, the out is a variant that has an appear effect that automatically transitions it back to its original state. So if we hover over, we're going to see something like this. Looks pretty cool, isn't it? But we can fine tune this a little bit more. So in Framer, what you can do is you can override the transition on each of these variants within the component, which will define how the component transitions to that specific variant. So for example, on the out, I might not want to have bounce. Bounce basically makes this transition curve a little bit bouncy at the end. So the object doesn't stop immediately. It just does a little like whoop, and then it stops. So I'm going to remove this bounce. And on the back, I'm going to keep the bounce there, but I'm going to make it a little bit longer. So the time will be 0.5, and maybe we also increase the bounce so it bounces a little bit more, maybe 3 even. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And maybe let's take a look at this now. Okay, I don't know what was that. That's probably a little glitch, but it looks pretty good. The only thing I don't like is that it comes back a little bit sooner than I would want it to come back. So the appear effect here on the out can be tweaked. So we wait a little bit more before coming back to the back. So maybe 0.2 seconds. So now, again, that glitch, I don't know what's that, but now This looks pretty good, maybe a little bit less, 0.15. That should be good. And yeah, this looks pretty good. As you can see, I hover over, it jumps a little bit and goes back to the original position. And if I hover again, it does it again. Really nice. So yeah, now we basically have this card. If we hover over, we see the micro interaction, and yeah, we can flex on our friends that we are able to do things like this in Framer without writing a single line of code. And the best part is that now we don't even need Figma for creating the illustrations. We can just draw it in Framer with the new vector tools. Such a lovely time. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. Make sure to drop any questions if you have any down in the comment section. I'm gonna do my best to answer you guys. And yeah, also check out Framer.University for other resources and components and tutorials. It has a bunch of resources. It's probably gonna help you if you are learning Framer or you're just building websites with it. And yeah, that's it for this one. Make sure to like the video, subscribe for more, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.